So today we're going to be talking about how we can report what other people say to you. We're going to be able to talk to others and tell them what questions other people have asked us. Okay? But before we get started, let's look at some of the shortcuts we'll be using during this lesson. So if you see an S, it means subject. SB is somebody. ST is something. V1 means the present simple form of the verb. V2 means the past simple form of the verb. V3 is the past participle. V base means the base form of the verb, so we don't add anything to it. VB means the verb be. VING means the continuous form of the verb. Okay? Alright, so let's pretend yesterday you were talking to your friend Tom. Okay? And Tom just finished a really difficult test in, let's say, math. You ask Tom, what's up? Tom says this to you. I finished the test. Okay? What's the verb in this sentence? Alright, it's finished. What verb tense is that? You said past simple, you're correct. Okay? What is the subject of his sentence? We got I, right? So, subject, Tom, I, finished the test. Okay? Now, let's pretend Tom told you this sentence. And later on, you're talking to another friend. And your friend asks you, what did Tom say to you? Okay? We have something in English, it's called reported speech, or indirect speech, that we can use in this situation. Okay? So what we do, we say, Tom said, then sometimes we can say that. It's not required. Okay? Now, here's the rule for when we're reporting speech. Whatever verb tense Tom said when he spoke, in quotes, we take it one step back in the past. Okay? So what is one step further in the past from past simple? Right, think about it for a second. If you said past perfect, you're correct. Okay? The past of past simple is past perfect. How do we make past perfect again? We say had, and then the past participle of finished. So it's the same thing. Oops, we got a mistake here though. Tom said that he had finished the test. Okay? So now we have past perfect. Because past simple in reported speech becomes past perfect. Now, you might be asking yourself, why did he change I to he? Okay? Because Tom is no longer speaking. I am speaking about Tom. So if I say, Tom said that I had finished the test, in the past, Tom was talking about me. So what I need to do here is change I to he. Because now Tom is not talking. Okay? So you always have to be careful about your pronouns as well. Okay? Alright, now let's look at what our friend Sarah said. Sarah said, we will go to the beach. Okay? Now remember our rule when we're reporting speech. We have the reporting verb. Usually it's said. And then we have the reported verb. This is the verb in quotes. So in this case, will go is the reported verb. In reported speech, the reported verb always goes back one step in the past. Okay? So when you look at this sentence, we will go to the beach. What verb tense is this? You said future. Again, you're correct. Okay? So what is the past of will? The past of will is would. Okay? So we change will to would. And then we don't really change anything else. Go stays the same. To the beach stays the same. We might change depending on who Sarah was talking about. Or it might stay the same. It all depends on who she's talking about. So for the sake of this example, we're going to keep it the same. Okay? So now we would go to the beach. But did I say this? No. Sarah did. So I need to tell the person I'm speaking to. Sarah said we would go to the beach. Okay? So far, so good? Alright, so let's look at this last one. Mary is speaking. She says, I can sing well. Okay? Who is Mary talking about? Who is I in this situation? You said Mary, you're correct. Okay? Mary and I are the same. Okay? So now, what's our verb? What's our reported verb? Can sing. What is the past of can? Alright. You said could. You are 100% correct. Okay? So we change can sing to could sing. Keep well here. You don't have to change anything. Now, if I write Mary said, what should I change I to? Is Mary talking about me, or is Mary talking about Mary? Right? Mary is talking about Mary, okay? But I am telling you what she said. So, what do I need to put here? Alright, if you said she, good job. You're right on target, okay? Alright, so now let's look very quickly at all of our sentences with reported speech. Okay? Tom said that he had finished the test. What is the subject in this sentence? Who is doing the action? Right? Tom is the subject. What is the action? Said. What is the thing he said? This. So this is our object. And if you'll remember from earlier grammar lessons, you've learned noun clauses can be objects. This is a noun clause. So in the noun clause, we have a subject and verb as well. Okay? If you have this structure, subject, said, subject, verb, and the verb is in the past of what they really said, then you have correct reported speech. Okay? So let's take a look here. Our subject, Sarah. What did Sarah do? She said something. We have our noun clause, subject, and verb. Is this reported speech then? Yes. Okay. One more. Alright, what is our subject in this sentence? Who is doing the action? Mary is doing the action, so she is our subject. What is the action she is doing? Said. So said is our verb. What did she say? This object right here, this noun clause. She said she, subject, could sing, verb. Okay? So, anytime you're reporting what somebody else said from a different conversation, we usually use this structure in English. Subject, said. We can say that if we want to. You don't need it. Subject and verb. Remember, this verb is always in the past of what they actually said in quotes. One step back in the past. Okay? So this is how we report statements, what people say. Now let's talk about questions very quickly. Okay? Let's say Tom is taking his test, and Tom is a really, really bad student. Okay? And Tom is trying to cheat in the middle of the class. Since you're a good student, I know you wouldn't do this, but what might Tom ask you if he was sitting next to you? Tom might ask you, do you know the answer to number 1? Okay? Now, later on, the teacher caught you and Tom talking during the test. And you are trying to prove that you're innocent. You're trying to say, I had nothing to do with it. Okay? So what are you going to tell the teacher Tom did? Okay? Did Tom say something to you? Not really. He had a question, right? So instead of saying said, we say Tom asked. Okay? Now, when we're reporting questions, you follow pretty much the same rules as reporting statements. There's only one difference. You have to figure out, is it a yes or no question or an information question? Alright? If it's a yes or no question, we're going to use 3 phrases. We're allowed to use 3 phrases. If, whether, or whether or not. Okay? So let's look at this question. Do you know the answer to number 1? If Tom asks you this question, what will your answer be? If you're a good student, you'll say no, because you don't want Tom to answer. So if you can say no to a question, it's a yes or no question. Okay? So, what we're going to do, we can put, who did Tom ask? Me. It's optional. Then we can put if, whether, or whether or not. Okay? Now, just like reported speech, remember Mary said, I can sing well. We have to figure out the verb tense of the statement. What is the verb tense here? Do you know the answer? Okay? Do tells us it's present simple. Okay? So, what will we change the verb to in the reported question? Okay? If we're changing the present simple to the one step in the past, it will be past simple. So what's the past of know? Knew. Okay? Now, in English questions, we start with the verb. But in reported speech, we switch the verb and the subject when we're reporting questions. So Tom asked me if I knew the answer to number 1. Okay? And we don't need a question mark here anymore because now it's a sentence. It's a statement. Okay? And now, after Tom asked you the question, and your teacher caught you cheating, and you told your teacher, Tom asked me if I knew the answer to number 1, and your teacher said, okay, you can leave, Tom got in a lot of trouble. Okay? Tom found you later on in the hallway. He asked you another question. He asked you, why did you tell on me? Okay? Now, let's go back to our rules. We have to ask ourselves, is it a yes or no question or an information question? Anytime in English we start with a WH word, it's probably an information question. And when I say probably, I mean it always is. Okay? So, we're going to do the same thing again. Tom asked me with information questions. We keep the WH word at the beginning of the noun clause. Okay? Why? Okay. What's the next step? Verb tense, right? This is in the past simple, so what will it become in reported speech? What is the past of told? So if this is past simple, the past simple is told. What is the past of the past simple? Past perfect. So had told on him. Okay? So now let's look at it this way. Alright, so when we're reporting questions, we start out with subject. We say asked. Then it's an option. We usually tell who they asked. So somebody. Then we have these three words. If. We have one of these three words. We can choose either if, whether, or whether or not. Then we have another subject and a verb. Okay? Do I have a question mark here? No, because this is no longer a question. Okay? Then we have the same thing here. Subject asked somebody. Why did we use a WH word in this one? Because it was an information question. Okay. WH word, subject, verb. Alright, so when you're reporting questions, if it's a yes or no question, make sure you use this structure. If it's a WH question, make sure you use this structure. Okay? And next time we'll talk about reporting commands and a couple other little rules associated with reported speech. Okay?